welcome back. Well, as I mentioned, we have Jeff Parker here with us, and we have a lot to cover this morning. So thank you for joining us. Happy Monday.
Good morning to you.
So, a lot's been happening over the weekend. The governor has decided to, roll things back because we did reach the percentage that he had predicted we would reach. So starting late last night, our restaurants closed and a variety of other things have changed. So I know you want to talk a little bit about that to start. So
right. So good point. So last week, as we talked on Friday, the governor had put out this new order, stay-at-home order, contingent on these 5 regions for California,
right.
Not just Orange County, but now we're lumped in with Ventura County all the way down to San Diego, and those numbers, just as predicted, and they saw these things rolling in on the average, drop down below the percentage of 15 that they were predicting. In fact, it's for the region, it's down to 10%, just a little over 10% for that's what we'll call Southern California region. For Orange County, and we'll get to the numbers in a minute, Orange County is still above that, but again, we're wrapped into that whole region thing, and that's what we're having to deal with.
And you know what? Let's just elaborate on that now because we had that discussion last week. Why is it that they made it a region, right, as opposed to like we were counties? Let's just talk a little bit about that.
So the main reason is that with the ICU beds and the need for the ICU beds, it's not based on just Orange County keeps its ICU beds and nobody else can go there.
Right.
So if the neighboring county, whether it could be Imperial County, San Diego County, San Bernardino, any of the counties run into a isolated spike in their numbers and they don't have enough ICU beds, then there is a mutual aid, I'll call it, where they would be shipped to beds here in Orange County as well as any other county that would have that capacity.
Okay.
So that brings the overall average down.
Okay.
And that's part of the impact. So you could have one county that's getting down to like 5%, and that's pulling down the average for everybody. Okay. I know that up in the Central Valley, San Joaquin, it was hit real hard. So they were at 8% already.
Oh.
So
did they have to then send those folks to a neighboring county?
It's possible, or they're getting close to the fact that they don't have the capacity, and then that's where you could see the shift.
Okay.
So we'll get to that in a minute. I do want to talk about the numbers, and then we'll go back and talk to the order. So the order is, first of all, the stay-at-home order. So we're now in this new stay-at-home order where basically indoor activities are shut down except for some retail, and that's based on a percentage now. But probably the one that we all recognize is restaurants. Right. No indoor, outdoor, you can only do takeout. We don't have any indoor activities here at our community centers. We're not doing that. But the good news is outdoor recreational activities can still continue as long as we're masking. Masking and social distancing, masking and social distancing. So there may be some tightening of those rules. We talked about that, singles versus having doubles, and looking at those kind of rules. So we're going to have to implement this next week.
Yeah, UST actually just sent out a note.
Right.
The Tennis Association.
Right. And so that's the little nuances that we're going to be facing with regards to our outside activities here at the village. Unfortunately for Restaurant 19, they're not going to be able to have the patio restaurant activity. They're going to have to go back to only delivery only.
Right.
So that's the impact there.
Or to go.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay.
So if we look at the numbers, unfortunately, even just comparing from Friday's numbers, we're at 2,025 cases reported. Now, again, I keep correlating that the testing's way up too, though. Look at that 18,000 tests.
Yeah.
So there is a correlation still, in my opinion, of positive tests to the number of tests. Unfortunately, when we're talking about the number of cases that are out there region-wide, when we see that many positive cases, we know that the virus is expanding or moving. And last Friday when we talked, that was 1,100 cases. So we went from 1,100 to 2,000. So that's a big percentage jump, unfortunately. And then the other side of it is the death total went from 8 last Friday to 15. Laguna Woods is jumping a little bit. When I say a little bit, we've always stayed pretty low. We were at 105, 106 when we talked on Friday. We're up to 114. Okay. So that's a pretty good number jump over the weekend.
Right.
Our death totals at 11 for the city of Laguna Woods. Remember, these are Laguna Woods city numbers, not
Right.
just the village.
Right.
So again, it is prompting the state to do what it is, because we're seeing this not only countrywide but statewide, just this big insurgence in the numbers. Now, if we can go to the next chart, this one gives you an idea that we're still up there on that 7-day average of 22 cases per 100,000, which clearly puts us.
I remember just looking at that,
Yeah, it's
and it was
just
16.
Yes, and before, remember
And
when
8.
we were in the 3 points, we were looking at it
know.
going into the moderate, and then
Exactly.
it just took
It
off.
just went nuts.
And again, over there on the third one, that 13%, that has to do with looking at the positivity rate in certain zones in the 13.
Right.
So it's actually ahead of the average daily that we've seen just in the last few days. Probably the one I want to show is the hospital number here. It's, I think, the fourth one over. They can go to that.
Hospital ICU, yeah.
And if we can show the ICU numbers. And this is where part of it is confusing and part of it is frustrating. Now, obviously the 848 patients and the 209 are upticks. And so that's our concern. And we want to control that as much as possible. But at 209, we still have 18% capacity in Orange County.
Right.
So it means, and I think that's what you're hearing on the radio, TV, people in Orange County frustrated, well, wait a minute, we're at 18, why are you shutting us down?
I see, yeah.
And that's that locking in of the
Right.
whole San Diego all the way up to Ventura, Southern California region. So I don't have an answer for why they chose such a big area. I know that there is dialogue between Board of Supervisors and the state trying to say, hey, maybe it should be 1 or 2 counties, or maybe
Yeah.
it just should stay at county by county basis.
Right.
And-
Yeah, because, it's tough. Like, I guess, we always get lumped in
Right.
to Los Angeles, and it's, super frustrating because we are our own entity and we do have a much smaller number of people, and they aren't necessarily as concentrated as some of the Los Angeles areas. So I think that is super frustrating for all of us. However, it does make sense where you're talking about the one region, if there is a situation where they have to kind of overload and then move on to someone else, because you don't want them to be full too and not know it.
Right.
Okay.
And that's really what I think that's why they made that decision, is because they want to make sure that there's capacity in the area to handle these ICU cases.
Right, right. Well, you said you guys are talking to our local health department. We're keeping on track with the executives at the local hospitals. So if there was a situation, I think we would be pretty well informed.
And we know that at our local hospitals, they've seen an uptick. We haven't identified that they're still under that percentage, which is good news, but the capacity is getting smaller. And so the importance, again, of staying at home, social distancing, wearing masks, and
Right.
doing all that's so important. Which I guess I'll segue into the fact that we've sent notices out to our community a couple times in the last few days, letting them know that we have been notified or specifically are aware of a COVID-19 case in Laguna Woods where there was a direct impact with an employee. So in those cases, we're having to make sure that the notification goes out directly to anybody who, tracing it back to who they had contact with,
Right.
who had that individual that lives in the community had contact with. So everybody's been notified.
Okay.
Our employees that were impacted or potentially impacted are being quarantined or going for testing. So we're making sure that we're following the protocols set up by the CDC, the state, and Orange County with regards to that. And it's unfortunate, but I think that's an example of just recently seeing 2 dynamically that close is, again, going back to these jumps in numbers,
Right.
and that we need to be very, very diligent about being protective of yourself and
Right.
being protective of others.
Right. And when you said, wash your hands, keep your distance, and wear your mask, just understand that, you are doing as much as you can in terms of preventing yourself from getting something, but it isn't 100% foolproof. So it is still possible, but you're just lessening your opportunities to get
You're
that.
absolutely
for
right.
sure.
You're absolutely right. There's nothing that's foolproof out there, other than total isolation, and that's real difficult. We know that. You still got to go to the market. You still have to, get out and do a few things. And again, exercising. We're still open for exercising outdoors. You're going to have to wear the mask, but still you can get outdoors and you can play golf. You can pay. Just understand that there's going to be mask requirements that are a little more diligent on those areas.
And the good thing that the governor didn't do is he didn't restrict you going to the beach. He didn't restrict you from going to certain areas. I mean, you can still take your walks. You can still, if you love, like I'll tell you right now, we're going to tell you later, but you can still go look at Christmas lights. You can do all that stuff. Just take into precaution that there are going to be other people there. So just make sure that you keep your distance and wear your mask.
And the other thing I wanted to mention on that, the gathering. So we went back and we analyzed what the governor was saying and looking at that. So gatherings, as we have talked about, some concerts and stuff like that, those are going to be on hold. And we'll look at rescheduling and all of those. But now we're in this 3-week period minimally. And if we don't see those numbers rise, we're going to stay in that period. So the sooner we can get these numbers back up, the sooner we can get back into semi-normal operations, especially with regards to shopping and eating out and being able to go to places where you can access without having a percentage of it or worrying about that. I know that the Orange County Sheriff had sent out a memorandum, basically said he's not the mask police, he's not going to be out there enforcing these things. That's the social responsibility of residents to follow these rules, and hopefully people will do that.
Exactly, and everybody so far has been doing a really great job, as we have discussed many, many times. So good information. We'll keep on top of all of it, and if you have anything before Friday, then of course we'll have you back beforehand. Now, moving on to a Laguna Woods subject, I know there was some emails that were sent out, so you have something you wanted to say about that.
Yeah, so at the end of the year, every year, we send out the annual assessment mailings. And this year, when we were going and doing the mail merge, which is our IT department having everybody's addresses and information and merging that with our financial information, there were 601 letters that went out that had a secondary name on it that was incorrect. Now, the first name was correct, and that's the owner of the property, and the information's correct on there, and all of the assessment information is correct. But for some reason, with this mail merge, it picked up some information that shouldn't have been associated with that. And on 600 letters, there was an error. And so we're notifying those individuals, getting new letters out to them, making sure they understand that nothing was compromised, no change in data is there, all the assessment letters are correct and everything. It just had this odd mail merge that added a second name on there that shouldn't have been there. So got that corrected. We're working on making sure that everybody gets a new updated letter without that second name on there, and we'll move forward.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Anything else?
No, I think the only thing I want to mention is that we are working on some additional staff issues. Now we're going to have to go back and evaluate the essential services and what we can maintain, which is we're going to do a lot of that because so many of our services are essential to the welfare of the buildings and to the welfare of the people. So don't have a big expectation that we're going to stop in our, but some of our office people, if we can get them to work from home, we're going to follow the rules, and if they can work from home, then they'll work from home under these new guidelines from the state.
All right, perfect. Thank you. That was a lot for Monday.
And a busy weekend.
Hopefully we'll have better news by Friday, but we just don't know until we get there. So.
You'll be able to give you an update at least on what's going on with the state, and then also with regards to Laguna Woods and our operations if there's any changes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, when we come back, we'll have some additional information for you about some things that you can do locally in our community, so stay tuned.